that was calling me to step up and lead. And it was immediately met with this thought of, who am I to do this, right? I'm just a massage therapist. I'm just this like little biology major who loved to run around the islands and do cool things, right? Like, who am I to do this? Have any of you ever felt this way, right? We talk a lot here, and you may have heard me say this, but I believe one of the biggest issues facing our cultures right now is this disease of disconnection. We are disconnected from the planet. We are disconnected from each other. And this disconnection stems from not knowing how to be present within ourselves. And so when I think about embodied leadership, I think about the beautiful, Siri decided to pop up on that. When I think about embodied leadership, I think about just the power of coming back into ourselves. And this is one of the key things that I believe in with embodied leadership is it's not about independence. It's not about coming back to ourselves to be independent from. It is about coming back into ourselves and recognizing the interdependence, right? It's about coming back into yourself and into your body and seeing how we are connected to everyone and everything. And so when we talk about embodied leadership, right? And I just want to say, before I go any further, I'm not here to say this is what it is. I'm here because I think that there's an opportunity for us to have a conversation, for us to be curious, for us to feel our way forward. I know that there are so many of you out there, so many people come into BodyMind coaching because you feel this stirring, this calling of like, there's more here. And I think sometimes we resist the call because what we have been shown of what leadership looks like, right? The leadership that we see that I know I was raised in was often leadership rooted in disconnection. It was leadership rooted in oppression. It was leadership rooted in power over, not power with. And so just this idea of the power of embodiment, right? The power of embodiment and leadership about coming back home, as Heidi Mitro says, leading from within, right? Coming back into yourself as a way of connecting with the world around you, with people around you. You know, I believe that when we look at everything happening in the world today, embodiment is a powerful tool for social change, right? I know for me, as this journey has unfolded and deepened, the more connected I come back and the more embodied that I become, the more I see the world around me, the more, can you guys hear Siri? She keeps thinking I'm talking to her. She's going to pop up again. I see, like, the more I become embodied, the more that I see how, you know, every single person around me is a part of this, right? It's why, right? It fuels me. The inner work that I do fuels me to look at what systems and structures have to get to change in our culture to have a more equitable and inclusive world. So, right? So again, I'm not here to have the answers. I want to have this conversation because I feel so many of us being called to step up and lead. And I think the opportunity that we have here is for us to cultivate what leadership gets to look like. Think about that. We have an opportunity to cultivate and look at what leadership gets to look like when heart-centered people who care about humanity, who care about equanimity, not just equality, but equanimity, who care about inclusivity, who care about right? The diverse perspectives of all people, like what gets to be possible if we embody a new form of leadership? That's the conversation I'm excited to have. That's the conversation and the work that I want to experience. So one of the things that I've been kind of feeling into is what are the characteristics of an embodied leader? I know there's definitely stuff around intuition. There's definitely stuff, been really feeling into the power of breath and leadership, and how, like, literally thinking about how one breath can change the world, because one breath is the difference between a reaction and a response. One breath is the difference between a life of default and a life of design. So I've been thinking about what are these characteristics. And the one thing that I want to share today in this conversation is something for us to all maybe consider and play with. And I'm curious if any of this is resonating. Put a 1 in the comments if you're like, oh my God, like I'm tracking with you again. Like this is an exploration. This is not a coming at you to tell you what it's supposed to look like. But the question that popped up for me as I was exploring this topic of what is an embodied leader? What does that mean? What are these characteristics? One thing that popped up was this question of what are we leading towards, right? Because leadership, often when we think about leadership, we're thinking about what we're leading towards. Like a leader typically has the goal, has the vision. There's definitely a lot of vision energy in this. The leader typically has the vision, and they're there. Like the definition when I think of leadership is goal, vision, and like, get people moving in the same direction. That's what typically pops up into my mind. And yes, I think there's a lot of inspiration. I was in an amazing workshop last week. My team and I did a training with Trudy LeBron. She does equity-centered coaching. It's just amazing. And one of the women there, Asia Frost, one of the presenters, talked about humility. And I do think a quality of an embodied leader is humility. And this is what she said humility is. Humility is the recognition that, right, you are equal, right? That all of humanity matters, that every ounce of life is equal, right? The humility is to recognize that in this circle of life, Lion King, that all life is equal, all life is important, all life, right, works together and is in connection. And also the recognition that humility is the recognition that your energy contributes to the whole. So true humility is about rising up as a way to inspire others to rise with you, for all of humanity to rise with you. And I just thought that was so amazing. So this question, I'm going to go back to this question of what is an embodied leader leading towards kind of popped into my mind. And I started to visualize that, right? And I started to think about what might be possible in this space of embodied leadership. And then this is what came up and kind of came out of my embodiment was, I think the better question is, what is an embodied leader leading from? What energy is an embodied leader leading from? I think that is the better question. Yes, we're here to have vision. Yes, I think we all have hopes and dreams of a better world, right? I know we all want to change the world. I know that we all want to have a fair and equitable communities. I know that we truly want to inspire and empower others. We want to have a healthy planet. We want to have healthy food. We want to have good education systems, all those things. We want those things. And we know that that's what we're leading towards. But I think one of the issues that we see in leadership is the energy that people are leading from is apeshit crazy, right? So let's come back to what is the energy that we are leading from? Because this is the power of body mind. And this is something that we teach in body mind coaching. We empower our coaches to do is that, we all talk about the paradox of life, right? When we are clear and embody, right, when we think about the goals and the dreams and the outcomes and the desires that we want to see, I'm curious how that feels. Like, what does freedom feel like? What does joy feel like? What does a healthy planet feel like? What does what does true equality feel like? What is that energy? Right? What is the energy of that outcome? And then I am curious, what would it look like? Siri is all sorts of crazy today. I'm curious. This is the fun thing of doing it live. I'm curious. I'll say I'm curious again, just to say it one more time. What would it look like to embody that energy? What would it look like to embody the energy of freedom? What would it look like to embody that energy now? Because here's what's really cool. Within your amazing body, you have 3 brains. You have a brain at the base of your pelvic bowl. That brain is connected to the earth. That brain is connected to community. That brain looks at your neighbor and says, I am another you, right? And that brain feels, right? And so I want you to kind of get into that energy. And what's really cool is we're going to go up to the brain and the heart, right? And yes, you have cells that act independently of the brain in your head that allow your heart to pump. And the electromagnetic field of your heart, it expands up to 15 feet away. And I fully believe that that energy in your heart, that is your connection to source. That is your connection to purpose. That is your connection, right, to that mission that you are here, that desire that you are here to make real in this world. So you get into the energy of how you want to feel, you connect to that calling and that purpose. And then you ask yourself and engage that amazing brain in your head. And you ask yourself, what is one way that I can expand this energy, that I can serve one other person, that I can do one thing to support my community, to make the world a better place? What is the one action I can take to take this action and go outwards? Right? The energy we come from as embodied leaders, I think, is more important than what we're going towards. Now, actually, maybe let me say that again. That might not be true. Let me feel into that. I think that they're equal. And actually, I think that they're the same. I think the energy we come from needs to match the energy that we're leading towards. That's what feels true. Curious if you agree, right? So this is that body-mind process, right? The world wants us to think, the coaching industry, this is why I've created BodyMind coaching. The world wants us to think that this is like a top-down, get the brain straight, figure it out, get all the fragments and all the pieces and parts organized, right? And, put into order and have the strategy and do all the things. And we're trying to lead towards something that we haven't fully embodied. But when we actually embody what we're leading towards and we pull that energy, what happens is this amazing brain in your head becomes a support tool to expand the energy that you're creating. Albert Einstein, I think, is given credit for this quote, although it might not necessarily be him. He says that the rational mind is a faithful servant. The intuitive mind is a gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that has forgotten the gift and honors the servant. Body, mind is the core of this. Embodiment, right? It's not only the ending, it's the beginning. Right? Yeah, so this is that embodiment, right? And I want to be very clear as I step into this conversation around embodied leadership, because I've seen a lot of really dangerous things come into the health and wellness space in this past year, where there's a lot of talk of like wellness things as a way to, get into body sovereignty and create independence from. Right? That is not the kind of wellness that I'm talking about. That is not the kind of embodiment I'm talking about. I don't believe that one vitamin that you take is going to make you independent from all of things. I believe that the more embodied you become, the more compassionate and connected you become around the world around you, right? So I actually believe that embodiment is a tool for social justice, big time, right? Doing the inner work and breaking down the inner systems and structures that we default to is part of how we shift the systems and structures that literally create oppression and divisiveness in our cultures. So this is, to me, like embodied leadership. This is such an amazing conversation, right? This is a place for us to start thinking about how we want to show up and how we want to come together as leaders and truly create the world that we know is possible. So I would love to know what you are taking away from this conversation today. Again, I think that the question of what is the energy that we're coming from, right? That's just as important as what are we leading towards. And in fact, the energy of that, right? When I think about an embodied leader, I think about somebody who embodies the energy of what we're leading towards and uses that as the starting point, right? And the other thing that's coming up, Brene Brown has this great conversation. It's in one of her podcasts where she talks about the difference between power over and power with, right? I think the old form of leadership was power over. I think the leadership we're being called to harness is really about power with. And what might be possible when we rise to the call, when we embody and take that action. What might be possible then? Thank you for joining me today. I hope this just, again, was a starting point to maybe to get curious, to feel our way forward, to like just to start to feel into what else might be possible. And I'm really stoked because we're going to continue these Friday lives, and I'm going to be inviting some amazing guests to join me for some more conversations around what it means, around embodied leadership, around BodyMind Living. And I'm just excited to share these amazing souls with you. They are also, wink, wink, going to be featured in our next season of BodyMind Living magazine. Our next issue comes out on June 1st. So get ready. You're about to meet our new wave of BodyMind ambassadors. They are amazing, and their voices are just, they got some power behind their words. So I'm excited for you to meet them. And also, just as a heads up, if you go to bodymindliving.com right now, you can get the first season of BodyMind Living with our first group of ambassadors. We put together all of the first season of the magazine into one beautiful issue. Literally, it's like its own book. So if you go to bodymindliving.com, you can download your free issue there. And the first season, we looked at redefining certain words within the self-help space, right? And redefining what these buzzwords and these topics meant from a body-mind perspective. So go check that out. Go get the issue. Go get that free issue. And on Monday, our next season of BodyMind Living magazine is going to be coming out with our new ambassadors who are just amazing. And you're going to see their lovely faces here with me to have these conversations, to feel our way forward, to just get curious of what might be possible. Thank you again for joining me. Please tag, share, and invite others into this conversation. And I'll see you then. Bye.